For a generation trapped in the neon-lit, hyper-capitalist pressure cooker of Seoul, the ultimate status symbol isn't a sleek luxury sedan or a high-end designer bag anymore, it is a set of keys to an apartment they will never own. Across South Korea, a quiet but devastating rebellion is brewing among the nation's youth. They aren't taking to the streets with Molotov cocktails, instead, they are staging a much more existential mutiny. They are giving up on the future entirely. To understand the sheer magnitude of what is happening right now, you have to look past the global cultural juggernauts of K-pop, K-drama, and high-tech convenience. Underneath that ultra-polished veneer lies a grim socio-economic reality. South Korea's 20- and 30-somethings have officially abandoned the traditional milestones of adulthood. They have created their own despair-fueled subculture, labeling themselves the Sampo generation, those who have relinquished 3 fundamental human milestones: courtship, marriage, and childbirth. But as the crisis deepened, that list expanded exponentially to the ENPA generation, a heartbreaking realization that they must give up an infinite number of things, culminating in the ultimate surrender: homeownership. Imagine working 80 hours a week at a top-tier tech conglomerate or a grueling corporate matrix, doing everything society told you to do, only to realize your entire lifetime earnings wouldn't buy you a single square meter of a standard concrete apartment block in the capital. This isn't a minor economic dip or a standard millennial housing crunch. This is a massive, systemic collapse of the Korean dream. The mathematics of survival in modern Seoul have become so profoundly broken that the youth are looking at the property market not as a ladder to climb, but as a vertical glass wall designed to keep them permanently at the bottom. To look at the hard, unvarnished numbers is to stare into an abyss of economic impossibility. In the mid-2000s, it took a median household roughly 5 to 7 years of unspent income to purchase an apartment in Seoul. Today, after an unprecedented, stratospheric explosion in property valuations driven by speculative mania and botched government interventions, the price-to-income ratio has soared past 25. That means a young professional entering the workforce today would have to save every single penny of their salary, completely abstaining from food, clothing, utilities, and taxes, for more than a quarter of a century just to afford a modest home. In reality, when accounting for the basic costs of staying alive, the timeline stretches to a ludicrous 70 or 80 years. This mathematical certainty of failure has weaponized a new cultural philosophy, YOLO, you only live once, mixed with a darker, distinctly Korean flavor known as Sibyl Byung, or fuck it spending. It is the economic behavior of absolute nihilism. When a down payment requires wealth you cannot accumulate in 3 lifetimes, the logical alternative is to spend your paycheck on instant, fleeting gratification. Young Koreans are bypassing savings accounts entirely to buy $5 artisanal coffees, $1,000 luxury streetwear jackets, and fine dining experiences that disappear in an hour. If the system is rigged to deny them a home, they reason, they might as well enjoy the view from the sidewalk while wearing luxury sneakers. The physical architecture of this crisis is visible across every square mile of Seoul. It lives in the Gashawon, tiny, windowless cubicles measuring less than 5 square meters, where a bed and a desk are squeezed together, and a tenant can touch both walls simultaneously without standing up. Originally designed as temporary study shacks for students cramming for state examinations, these claustrophobic cells have transformed into permanent housing for an entire underclass of young workers. Then there are the banjiha, the notorious semi-basement apartments immortalized in global cinema, where young residents live below street level, watching the boots of pedestrians pass their grime-streaked windows while fighting off a never-ending battle against dampness, black mold, and the terrifying threat of flash flooding during the monsoon season. This spatial inequality has triggered a profound psychological mutation. For decades, the societal contract in South Korea was rigid but predictable: study relentlessly, survive the brutal Sanyang University entrance exam, land a coveted position at a chaebol like Samsung or Hyundai, buy an apartment in a respectable district, get married, and raise children. It was a conveyor belt of upward mobility. But that conveyor belt has ground to a violent halt. Today, the gap between those who inherited real estate from their parents and those who did not has created a neo-feudal class divide. South Korea's youth have popularized a grim caste system based on wealth, classifying themselves into spoon classes. If you are born into a family with property assets, you are a GM Sujio, gold spoon. If you are part of the vast, Propertyless youth working themselves to the bone just to pay rent. You are a Hulk Sugio, dirt spoon. The political fallout of this housing despair has been catastrophic, swaying presidential elections and tearing through the social fabric. Governments have rolled out dozens of real estate regulations, lending restrictions, and tax penalties designed to tame the beast of Seoul property speculation. Yet, almost every single policy move has spectacularly backfired, constricting the supply of new housing and driving rental prices to historic highs. The traditional Korean rental system known as Jeonse, where a tenant provides a massive, lump sum deposit equal to 70 or 80% of the property's total value instead of paying monthly rent, has turned into a minefield of financial ruin. Speculative landlords used these massive deposits to purchase additional properties, creating a massive, unregulated shadow banking Ponzi scheme. When the housing bubble began to tremble, these landlords vanished, leaving thousands of young renters completely wiped out, their entire life savings or heavily leveraged bank loans evaporating overnight. This systemic betrayal has triggered a deep, boiling anger toward the older generation. The baby boomers who purchased apartments for pennies in the 1980s and 1990s during Korea's economic miracle are now the wealthy landlords squeezing the lifeblood out of the youth. The older generation frequently dismisses the crisis, lecturing the young on their lack of grit, their reliance on luxury deliveries, or their unwillingness to work harder. But the youth see right through the rhetoric. They know that no amount of hard work can outpace a housing market that gains more value in a single month than a mid-level corporate salary yields in a year. The true, horrifying cost of this housing apocalypse isn't just measured in fluctuating market charts or banking vulnerability. It is written in the demographic death spiral of the nation. Human beings are, at their core, biological organisms that refuse to reproduce when their habitat becomes hostile. South Korea now holds the undisputed, tragic title of having the lowest fertility rate on the entire planet. The number has plummeted far below the replacement level of 2.1, crashing down to an apocalyptic 0.7. Young couples look at the cost of a two-bedroom apartment, calculate the mandatory private tutoring fees required to keep a child competitive in the education system, and choose total childlessness. The hyperinflation of real estate has transformed children from a natural biological legacy into an unaffordable luxury item. Seoul is a city that is simultaneously glowing with futurism and rotting from structural despair. The shimmering glass skyscrapers of Gangnam mask a population of young souls who feel entirely locked out of the civilization they are actively building. They look at the towering apartment complexes that dominate the city's skyline, lit up like massive vertical monoliths of wealth, and they know that not a single window belongs to them. The psychological toll is a quiet epidemic of depression, anxiety, and an overwhelming sense of isolation. What we are witnessing in South Korea is a chilling preview of the ultimate trajectory of hyper-financialized capitalism. It is a society where real estate has successfully cannibalized the future. The youth have not merely stepped out of the housing market, they have divorced themselves from the foundational expectations of human society. They are a generation of ghosts, drifting through a dazzling, ultramodern metropolis, paying rent to a class of property elites they can never join, and quietly letting the curtain fall on a nation that forgot to leave room for them to live.